And we are in. Let me get some context about this session. So today's session I want to put this here. Okay, hello, how are you? How are you doing? Welcome to another stream. As some of you know, I do regular streams every week. I usually do them on Fridays, but because tomorrow I'm traveling to a WordCamp, I'm doing it today because I don't want to miss any week streaming. And also I'm going to use this stream as a review of the topics that I'm going to demo in the WordCamp Galicia this Saturday. I think the topic is like very big, so there is a lot to talk about this, and I would like to show some of the demos and some of the clear ideas that I want to share in the demo that I'll do at WordCamp Galicia. So I'm going to start sharing an overview of the different authentication methods we have for the REST API, and then I will go one by one, showcasing how we can actually access the data that is protected. So yeah, let's start. Let's start with a diagram that I did in the previous session that I'm very happy with it because, well, it's actually here in this diagram. So yeah, these are the most popular ways to access data that is in the REST API, data that is protected. So because there is a lot of data that is not protected, that is public, but especially those going a bit back, the REST API. Okay, let me open a diagram. Let's continue the diagram we started here in the previous session that I did in. By the way, I'm going to share this in the chat because this is the link to the repository where I am compiling all the information from previous sessions. So for each session, you have like a link to the video and a link to all the resources that I have used during the session. So for example, for this session, I worked on this diagram, which, by the way, the cookies auth workflow is great, but this one, I have a better one, so I'm going to remove it. Okay, this is locked, so I'm going to lock it. Okay, so these are the authentication methods. So the REST API has like data accessible via different endpoints, and each endpoint can be accessed through different methods, and the methods that are usually defined are the get method, Usually with the get and post method, we can do like most of the operations, and we will usually deal with only these methods. For example, the same endpoint can have like the get version of that endpoint and the post version, but there are also some other methods like delete, put, some others. Basically, each one of these methods that we can use to access the different endpoints, they correspond to a specific CRUD operation. Like if we go to which corresponds to the this is the acronym is the word. So this is create, and I'm going to create. Just create. Read. Update and delete So each one of these methods corresponds. So for example, get will correspond to read usually. Post to create. Delete to delete, and put to update. This is in theory, but then sometimes we can find update operations being done using the post action, but this is semantically, this is what they are supposed to do. Okay, so yeah, we will have like different endpoints, and the endpoints in WordPress, they follow this syntax. So all the endpoints are after WP-JSON. Then we have a namespace, then we have a version, and then we have the specific path. And with all of that, we get the endpoint. The endpoint is called the mix of the method and the specific path. Okay, so having clarified a little bit the syntax for the different endpoints, then we can talk about authentication. So I'm going to group this, group selection. Okay. So usually this method, the get method, doesn't require authentication, but these other ones, they usually require. So this is going to be this, and it's going to be this, usually. So as I'm going to add a note here that get endpoints usually don't require and we can say here something like, yeah, something like this. Something like this. And this like post, delete, and put endpoints usually require authentication. But there are also some specific get methods that also require authentication, like for example, unless it's sensitive or private data. So yeah, as a rule of thumb, we can say this, like the get methods, they usually don't require authentication, and post, delete, and put, in most of the situations, they will require authentication. But some get actions will require authentication. For example, if we are logged into a system, to get the profile information of the logged user, we need to authenticate ourselves, because we cannot access the data of any user. We can only access our data. So this is an example of a get action that needs authentication. Okay. So let's go to a WordPress installation and we can explore this a bit more. We talked about this in the last session, so I'm going to do like a quick review, and then I would like to show some demos, especially using these workflows. But I think it's nice to review all the authentication methods. So if I have here my WordPress instance run by WordPress Studio, I can open the instance. I can open the instance and I have it here. And I have here the let me see if I can access the network. And if we go to posts, my post, here, hello from the API. Okay, yeah. Here we can see a lot of requests. Let me filter this by WP JSON. So in WordPress, the REST API okay. What happened? I lost the diagram. Oh my god. I lost the changes that I have just done. Well, I can repeat that later. Yeah, I think that I lost them. Okay, let's okay, let's go back. Let's take this scale-through diagram again, replace my content, yes, and let me open this again, scale-through. Okay. Okay. Let's start again. Okay, I will repeat this diagram later. Yeah. I unlock and I can remove. Okay, so we had like these different methods, and some of them we can authenticate. Some of the methods that are used for the endpoints, like the reading ones, they usually don't require authentication, but the modifying data ones are the ones that require authentication. So starting with cookies, this is the method that is used internally by the block editor. So if we go to the block editor, here we can see that every action we do, we move and we maybe add a paragraph here and say hello again, and then we save the draft, and then maybe we change the color here, we save the draft again, then maybe we move this. So which actions can I do? Well, I'm saving the draft. I can maybe these actions are enough. There are more actions that can be triggered from the block editor, but these ones are clear that every time I save, the block editor is performing the action by doing a request to the REST API. In this case, to the posts endpoint. Actually, if we check here, we can see that this is the endpoint, and it's a post. So I need to post. Yeah. This is a post. And because it's a post, we need to authenticate, because we are creating a new post with this request. And we can also see here the payload contains the information of the post we are creating. So this is a request that we can do. We can send a post request to this and we can send this data. This is an example of a post method that is being used to update the content of a post. And here's the payload. For the ID, this is the ID of the post, we are requesting to update the content to be this. And the response that we got is the new state of the post after internally WordPress has updated the information of the post. Okay.
Me falta.
Okay. So how is this endpoint validated? So in the headers, we can see response now. In the request headers, we can see that along with the request, there are some headers with the request, and one header corresponds to the cookies that are sent on each request. And here we have a cookie. Here's the cookie, WordPress logged in. I think is this one. This is the cookie used by WordPress to verify that this action is performed by an authorized user. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the REST API endpoints internally are validated via cookies, so we don't need to do anything. Once we are logged, we can perform actions using the internal cookies. Okay. So the interesting thing about this is that if we develop something inside WordPress, we don't really need to worry too much about the authentication, because there are tools that will manage that for us. So if we do a request to the REST API from within the same domain, we will attach to each request the cookie, and that cookie will be used to authenticate us. So we will be able to, with the logged user, if we are the admin or if we are any other user, we will be able to perform like different actions. But also internally there is a thing that is sent that is called a nonce, that is here. This is an extra security measure, so the WordPress can verify that the request has been done from a specific source. We attach, so if someone gets our cookie somehow, it cannot make like actions on our behalf. That's the idea of the nonces. So yeah, this is an extra security measure to increase security in these internal requests. Okay, that's one way. Another way is application passwords. So this is for requests done from within a WordPress site. As you can see, it goes through this process, and then at the end it triggers the endpoint callback. But then we have, if we want to perform operations from the outside of a WordPress site, for example, from a Node.js application or CLI application, something like that, we can use application passwords that, for example, let's imagine that we want to perform this operation, this same operation, but from the outside. We need to authenticate ourselves. Let me see if I can replicate this. Okay, so this is the vale. So we can come here. This is the URL. We can do a get. In theory, we don't need authentication. To do a GET request to this endpoint. But if we do a post, okay, because I have added. Well, in this case, I am adding here an application password that is actually created. But let me go to my user. I'm going to remove that application password. This is what I'm going to revoke. And now if we go to here, yeah, you are not allowed to edit this post because we need some form of authentication. And this is where we can use application passwords. Application passwords, what we can do is go to our user profile. So if we go to users and then we click in our user, below there is a section called application passwords. And here we can say we can add a specific application password, and this is the password we can use for the requests. So we need to attach to the request. We also need to send our user and this application password. So we copy this, and if we go to Postman, we can do this. We can attach the username and the password, and being the password, the application password that we have created. So now we are authorized to do the operation. And the body that we can, I think the body needs to be content. Okay, I'm going to simplify this. Content hello from and what else? I think that's all. We can update the content to be this. If we send a request and then we go to the post, we can see that the content corresponds to the one that we have updated from here. What happens if instead of using the application password, we use a real password? Let's check that. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I think in some systems it works, but I think here it doesn't. So we really need to add application password, but we can check that. This is my password, and if we say body, hello from my real password action. Yeah, we are not allowed to edit the post because we need to use our application password. That it was here. So here in the body, hello from using my application password. And here, if we go to the WordPress installation, yeah, this is the content that we have updated. But as you can see, we have done this request from the outside of WordPress. We are not doing that from within. So coming back to our diagram, which is this, we have cookies, we have application passwords. Okay. And then we have other methods that are more secure, because here with the application passwords, what's happening is that we are providing our credentials on every request, which is not like super secure. This is a valid approach if we are using, if we are interacting with the WordPress instance from a server application. From a server application or for a CLI application. In that case, because we have access, I mean, for local developments, of course, it's a valid option. For server side, it may be a valid option. But for client-side applications connecting to WordPress, this is not recommended at all, because we are sending our credentials on each request, and those credentials can be seen by other actors. So this is not really a recommended approach if we are creating client-side applications interacting with WordPress. There are other scenarios where this is not recommended, because also application passwords are not limiting any of the capabilities of the user. So with those credentials, the request can do anything that the user can do from the dashboard, from the admin dashboard, and that can be dangerous, especially if we are using the admin user or any other user with a lot of capabilities. So that's another thing to take into account. Also, if someone gets access to this password, it can perform actions on your behalf until you revoke manually the password. So that's another thing to take into account. So summarizing, this is a very insecure way, but it can be a valid solution if we are in a secure environment. Or in an environment that we trust. Like, for example, we are creating a tool locally for our local use. Application passwords is a valid solution. And also if we have a solution running on the server and we load those credentials via environment variables or so, then I think that's another valid solution. But if we want to create client-side application, like for example a web app or React application or something like that, then we need to look for more secure ways of providing access to WordPress. And one way is to use a JSON Web Tokens. So what we can do is to ask for WordPress installation for a token that we can store somewhere, and that token will represent the permission we are giving the app to act on our behalf. And that JSON Web Token will also contain information about ourselves and some other info. So that's a pretty popular solution for dealing with this type of authentications. So what we can do is showcase some demo about this. And I have here some demos. Let me go to the terminal. And if we go to projects, okay. If we go to the JSON Web Token demo, here we have a demo that we can use to check what is a workflow that we can implement in our applications. And this is actually a pretty secure workflow, the one I'm going to show you, but it needs a specific plugin on the WordPress side. And if we go to wordpress.org plugins and we look for JSON Web Tokens, there are a few of them. But I have created a custom one that satisfies my needs in terms of security. And this is the one that I'm going to use. If we go to demos, we can see a diagram. Okay. So this is the diagram of the React application. This is our WordPress instance with this plugin installed, because this plugin is the one that is going to define a specific endpoints. It's going to generate a JSON Web Token, and it's also going to authenticate the requests to check if the token that is, to check if there is a token with the request, and also if it's a valid token. But it also implements other secure ways of dealing with JSON Web Tokens in client applications, that is providing a secure cookie with a refresh token. So we can use that refresh token to, whenever we refresh, to get a new token. So what we can do to showcase all of these is to open the diagram here. I haven't changed here anything. But I'm going to save to a shareable link, copy link. Then I'm going to okay, this is the link of the diagram, something that I should have done before, because to avoid losing any data. And now I can open this diagram, replace my content, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this on one side, and on the other side I'm going to open this demo. And so with this application, we can, this approach, I mean, using dealing directly with a server that provides JSON Web Tokens is a good approach if we want to rely completely on the user database of the WordPress instance. For example, if we want to create a React application, but our users database, we want it to be the same one that is on WordPress. This is like a very typical headless WordPress application. We can use JSON Web Tokens. So in our application, we will have a login form. The users will enter their user and password, and those users and passwords will be internally managed by WordPress. So here in our React application, let's also open the console and the network. Okay. the console. So I have here, this application is already configured to interact with this this WordPress application. And I have here a plugin, Pro WP REST API, which has some settings here. And it requires defining a secret key, which I have already defined. And then there is some settings, like for example, the token expiry in seconds. I think this is 1 hour. And then also the refresh token. So we are going to receive, whenever we are properly logged in, we are going to get two things. We are going to get a token, but then we are also to get a refresh token. But they will be delivered in different ways. The token will be delivered directly as the response of our request, but the refresh token is going to be delivered via a secure cookie. So there are a lot of ways to implement this, but I think this one is a pretty secure one, and this is the one that I would recommend for client-side applications. Because having the refresh token on a secure cookie will prevent that any malicious code can access to the refresh token and that can get this JSON Web Token. And the token that we will use to validate the request, we will store it directly in memory. So it's a pretty secure way to avoid like malicious code accessing our tokens, or like the way we are saying to the app to act on our behalf. Okay, and then we have some other settings, for example, to interact, because when we interact with two different URLs, we need to deal with cores, but here this one is on 5173. It's an allowed origin, so the React application will be able to do requests to the server. And then there are some cookie settings that right now, because it's detecting that we are in development, is like it's not super secure, but we can increment the security by restricting that the cookie can only be accepted only on the same site. So in this case, we would need to deploy the React application in the same URL than the WordPress application. Then it can only work in HTTPS connections. So in this case, it works because we have an HTTPS connection here in the WordPress. And then we can restrict specific paths, we can restrict to specific domains, and we can restrict like some other things. So with this configuration in place, we can start with it, and we can the credentials. We are going to log in with the admin user. So admin and the password. So what happened here? What happened was that from our React application, we have done a request to this endpoint. If we go to this WordPress site And if we go to WP JSON, we can see that with the plugin installed, we have these endpoints. And we can see the different endpoints. So the token endpoint is the one that we use to get the token that will allow the app to act on our behalf. Then the refresh token is the endpoint that we'll use to get a new token, a refresh token, using the refresh token that is available when it will be sent along with the request, because it will be in a cookie. And then some other endpoints, for example, to verify if the token is valid or to log out directly. So this will revoke the current token. So it's JWT v1 token. If we go here, we can see in network that we have done a request we have done a post request where we have sent our username and our password, and we have received a specific token. So we have done a request and we have received a JSON Web Token, and this token will be stored in memory. But also, if we come here to application cookies, we can see that we have also received a refresh token. Why is that? And also that the refresh token is secure. It can only be accessed via HTTPS and a lot of things. It's more secure than the others. So we have this refresh token, and the cool thing about this is that, let's go to network. Let's close this. If I reload the page, I will do automatically request to the refresh endpoint. In the request header, I'm attaching the specific refresh token, and I'm going to get a completely new JSON Web Token. This one ends in NHE, and the other one ends in a different thing. And every time we refresh, we can get a new token. So this is a cool way to manage authentication via JSON Web Tokens, because the token is stored in memory and it's not stored in local storage or session storage, which can provoke some security issues. And we also provide a way so whenever the user refreshes the page, we can remain logged. So the user has to manually log out. And then whenever we do the logout, the token is revoked, and the refresh token, I think the cookie is removed. Let me see. Yeah, and the cookie is removed. If we go to network with the logout, I guess that one of the headers will be one of the response headers will be, yeah, to remove the token with the refresh token. Okay, so let's now use this let's log in again. Admin, password. This is the JSON Web Token. This is the JSON Web Token. And what we can do now is try to access try to do a specific action using this token. Okay. So let's check. Okay, I have here a specific in the demos. I think I have here some examples of how to. Okay, here rest of demo. Yeah, we need to add an authorization bearer. So if we go here, I'm going to remove here, and I'm going to change the authorization type from basic auth, that will be the application password, to bearer. And the bearer is the token that we got after we successfully logged in using our credentials. And what we can do is hello from using my JSON Web Token. And this is the preview. And if we go to our WordPress site, my API post, we can see that we have successfully changed the content using our JSON Web Tokens. Okay. So that's one way of authenticating endpoints. We are successfully authenticated like restricted actions. But then there is another. There is a con of this. There are pros and cons, and one disadvantage of this approach is that the client-side application needs to deal with the credentials of the user. So we need to enter our password to the client-side application, and that's not the most trustworthy way of dealing with the credentials of the users. So there is another approach which is more secure, is more complex, but it's more secure. That is a workflow where the credentials never touch the client-side application. The credentials are only entered into the server-side place, the server-side application that is actually managing the users. For example, you have seen this in a lot of times. Like, for example, when we want to provide access to our GitHub account or to our Google services, sometimes from third-party applications, we get redirected to Google, so we get logged in, and also we are asked about the specific permissions that we want to give to this application. So once we have given permissions to the app, then we go back to the app, and the app gets a token to act on our behalf with a specific scope of the permissions that we can do. And a ver. Okay, so let me. We are going to run another application. So I'm going to stop this one. Clear. And I'm going to run npm room dev. And here I have another application. Is this one. And in order to use this application, I need another plugin installed on the WordPress site. So if I go to the WordPress site, I can go to plugins, deactivate this one. I'm going to activate this one. Okay, so this plugin, if we go to settings, it will allow like client-side applications to connect with this WordPress instance and to get access to specific actions. And the third-party app will never touch the credentials of the user. So what's the workflow exactly? Let me see if I can find the diagram. I think I have it in cursor. So what I can do is go into the terminal. That is, where is the is here in the terminal. And what I can do is to okay, this is the repository with the demos. This is the README and this is the diagram. And this is the diagram. No, this is not the. Is this one. Okay. So this is the workflow we are going to do. Our React application is going to request permissions to the WordPress server. We can ask for different permissions, but I'm going to be very restrictive. So for example, I'm just going to ask for one permission. And whenever I request the permission, I'm going to be sent directly to the WordPress server. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to log out here, because if I am not logged in, the WordPress site is going to ask for my credentials. So I'm going to copy the password and let's see what happens. I request the permission and I've been sent to WordPress. This is my local URL of my WordPress installation. And also, let me store, this is my password. These are my credentials. URL parser. We can see this URL like the query string. So whenever I'm successfully logged in, I'm going to be redirected to another URL, which is the screen where I will authorize the specific permissions I want to provide the app to act on my behalf. So first I'm going to log in. And now I have been redirected to this other URL. If we check that URL, we can see that part of the parameters that are being sent are the client ID, and this is something that I need to, this is something that if we go to, now I'm logged properly. If we go to dashboard, to the settings, we have the client ID. Demo client, that is the one that is being registered. That is registered. Demo client. And then we have like some extra security measures like a PKCE, which is like an extra code to ensure that the request is done from a secure place. So here we are in the WordPress installation. We are still here. We have successfully logged in, and now we are in the authorization page. We are from the WordPress side. We are authorizing the client-side application to do some things on our behalf, and those things are explained here. So the user can allow or can cancel. So this is like, in terms of security, this is a really good experience for the user, because the user has to provide access to specific actions. So here I'm allowing to do this action, view my posts, pages, and profile information. And now I have been provided with this permission, grant the permissions. What else? If we go to the console, okay, let me do this process again. I'm going to remove this because I'm already logged in. I'm not going to be asked to log in again, but if I do this, then the process is the same than with the direct JSON Web Token. I'm getting the token here as the response, but also I'm getting a cookie that I can use to get a new token every time I refresh the application. So this is like a pretty secure way to manage tokens, because tokens are stored in memory, they are not stored in local storage, and then we can use like this way to get new tokens. Okay. So now that token represents specific permissions for the that I have given to the app to act on my behalf. So this is really interesting, because even when I have logged in as an administrator, and as an administrator I have all sorts of permissions in the app. Here I have permissions only for some things. In this case, I have only provided access to read, only permissions to read things. And in this demo, for example, we can check that we can read posts, we can read the user profile, we can read comments, but we cannot create a post. You can see here that we cannot create a post because the scope is insufficient. But if we log out here, and then we ask for write permissions, here I'm asked to specify that I want to give these permissions. Then I have more permissions. I have read and write permissions, and I can read the user profile, and I can also create a post here. And if we review the diagram, we can see that the React application, whenever we want to get permissions to do something on the WordPress site, we are redirected to the WordPress site. We are redirected to authorize, sending like the client ID, the redirect URL, the code challenge. In the client side, we are we log in, then we go to the authorization page to provide permissions, and then we are returned with an authorization code that is the one that we use to, this is the code that we get, and with that authorization code we ask for the token, and then we get the token, and also we get a refresh token in the cookie. So now we can do the API request, like for example this. And then whenever I refresh the page, or if the token has been expired, we can use the refresh token to get a new access token. So this is more or less the workflow. But this authorization methods, they work not only for core endpoints but also for custom endpoints. So let's check that. If we go to WordPress, okay, if we go, let me see here in install plugins. Yeah, I have here these endpoints. This is a plugin with extra endpoints. If we go to WP JSON, it's WP JSON, we can see that we have this namespace and this version. So if we go to, we can see that we have these extra endpoints registered, and some of them are protected. So what we can do is use these authorization methods to also check if we can access these specific endpoints. So for example, public stats is something that shouldn't require any. What we can do is go to okay, I'm not going to add any authorization, no auth. Yeah, so these are the stats for the site, and we don't require any authentication method. Then we have user data, protected user data. And we cannot access this user data because we need to authenticate ourselves. And we can do that with the basic auth, or we can also do that using the token. So if we check the last time this token should work, let's check that. So this is the better token. No, this token is okay. So we can also use, or we can use also the JSON Web Token. Okay. What else we can do here? Editor only, my drafts. Yeah, these are protected, but we should be able to access these my drafts. And also profile. Protected profile. Protected profile. Okay, because this is a post method. And this post method, let's check. This is the profile, and is a put. And what we can do is to use this. So yeah, this is a put. We need to add this, and the authorization should be this one. If we select no auth, we don't have access, but if we use the token, we should have access. And our profile has been properly updated with this information. So let's check that. We can properly, and if we go to users, and we can see that we have updated this. And we can maybe okay, so we can see that all these authentication methods, they work not only for core endpoints, but also for custom endpoints. And the custom endpoints, they are registered okay. Let's check also the get posts and none. Okay, because there are none published, but if I go to posts and this is a draft, and I'm going to publish this one, and also publish this one. If I go to Postman now, we can see this one. And we should have here some new values. That is a registered read field for post. We have registered reading time, author bio, and view count. Author bio and view count. So we have these three values that we have added to the post field. And then we have registered post meta, that it should be here in metadata something. Okay, let me see, what is this? View count. Update view count. Okay, so this is a metadata that is registered but is displayed here. Okay, and then we have like the different callbacks for the endpoints. So these are the custom endpoints that we are registering. For example, this one doesn't require any specific permission, but this one requires for the user to be logged in. So if we access protected user data without providing any authentication method, then we won't get anything. Then we need a specific user with editor permissions. And then again, we need to provide some authentication data to get access to this. Okay, nice. So going back to our original diagram, which was here. We have seen how we have these authentication methods. We have cookies that are used internally by the block editor. Then we have application passwords that can be created here under users, admin. We can create an application password and we can revoke them. The thing is that with every request we do, we need to provide those credentials, and that's can be insecure. Only acceptable if So with the application password, what we do is we send the credentials on every on every request, as we can see here. Like it was here. So that's not super secure. And then we go to some other authentication methods that are JSON Web Tokens and OAuth 2. OAuth 2 is like just a series of recommendations used to generate like secure workflows in order to authenticate users in applications. So the approach for JSON Web Tokens is, okay, this is the demo, this is the we have our React application, we enter our credentials from the client-side application, and we send those credentials to the WordPress site to a specific endpoint. Then we get the token. A secure way to store the token is in memory. So to avoid having to log in every time we refresh the page, we can also incorporate to the workflow a secure cookie with the information of like a refresh token that we can use to get a new token every time we refresh. And this is like a good way, a secure way to manage this. We can also use OAuth which is a bit more complex, but also is more secure, and it allows you to provide more granular permissions to what your application can do on behalf of the user. So the way it works is that from the React application, what we do is, instead of entering our credentials from the client side from our application, we send the user to the entity that is managing the users, in our case, the WordPress application. So if the user is not logged, the user can log in the WordPress site, and then in the WordPress site we are also asked for the specific permissions we want to provide the application to do on our behalf. And that's a very nice screen where it's very specific about the permissions we are providing. And we can set a scope. So even if when our user can do a lot of things, we can limit the things we are giving access the application to do on our behalf. And that's the scope we can give. And we are, the user will give explicitly the permissions for the application. There are also some extra security measures like a PKC challenge that is used internally to verify that the request is being done from a secure place. This is very similar to the nonces that are used with the cookies from within WordPress. So we are redirected to the user login page, then to the authorization page, and then we get an auth code that we can exchange for a token. So we send the authorization code, and then we get the token with a refresh token in the cookie, and that refresh token is the one we can use to refresh the page and get a new token every time. So the token is stored in memory, so no malicious code can access our token, and every time we need to refresh, we send the cookie, and the cookie we can configure it to be as secure as we want. So we can restrict the specific domains, we can restrict HTTPS and a lot of things. And as we can see, this works for any type of endpoints, both core endpoints and custom endpoints. Nice. So yeah, I think that this has been a nice way to wrap up this topic. I think that we have covered a lot. I will leave the links of all the resources, including the demos and the plugins that I have developed and that are aligned with the secure way to manage authentication from a client-side application. And yeah, let me know if what do you think about this topic. And next week we will do another stream. So let me know if there are some topics you would like me to cover. So I'm going to leave it here. Hope you have all a great weekend. I am going to WordCamp Galicia. WordCamp Galicia. And I'm going to do a demo about this topic. So that's why I am so updated on these things, because I've been preparing a demo. If we go to the program in Spanish, because this is in Galician, where is the program in Spanish? Here. Yeah, this is the demo I'm going to do. That is exactly the same topic that we have covered today in our session. So yeah, hope you like it, and also the session is available here for you to check it later, and also in this repository I am compiling all the sessions that I'm doing on a weekly basis, along with all the resources that we are that we use during the sessions. I am switching languages, so one week I do the stream in Spanish and the other one in English. And yeah, hope this is helpful for you, hope this is useful for you, and yeah, well, here in discussions I have this ideas discussion open, so feel free to suggest new ideas. As I said, hope you have a great weekend, and see you next week. See you.